So this is for my Writing 235 online class, my final presentation. So if we could just start with some demographic information, like your name, profession, like hometown, any information that you think goes
Sure.
along with the topic.
Okay. Well, thank you for asking me. My name is Dr. Vanessa Quainoo, and I am a professor here at the University of Rhode Island. I've been here for well over 25 years, and I'm in the Department of Communication Studies and Africana Studies.
Okay. And I know you have a lot of background on this topic. I feel like you talked about it a lot in class today, ironically. And I'm just curious, though, if you could elaborate on how you gained this background, any personal experiences you've had growing up as a Black woman, just anything you think that pertains to the topic.
Sure, yes. Well, I grew up in Springfield, Illinois, which is a very typical Midwestern town, but it was very racially divided, although we had a kind of superficial coexistence between the races, predominantly white and Black at that time. And I was sort of, I hate to say it this way, but sort of labeled as a student of potential. And so I was kind of handpicked out of the Black school and bused to the white American school. And from that point on, I was automatically put into college level, advanced level courses and college preparatory courses throughout all the way from elementary school to high school. And to show you the racial problem there at that time, out of all the huge population of African Americans in Springfield, Illinois, there were only 2 students who were handpicked and put in college preparatory courses.
And you were one of them?
And I was one of them.
So it sounds like you were at least one of the lucky ones, but
there were hundreds and thousands of others who
that slipped through the cracks like they always do.
That's right.
And I like the way that you said that you had this almost like superficial understanding of each other, but I feel like that's a big thing that goes on in America right now, that people like to pretend that racism doesn't exist because it makes them uncomfortable.
Exactly.
But okay, so then are there any other specific reasons about why this became like your life's work? It's obviously an important topic, but specifically for you, what makes it so important?
I knew early on from taking an English class from a English class teacher who happened to be from Mississippi, an African American female, and she impressed me so strongly on the power of language and the power of words and the ability to communicate and how important that is. So I knew early on, I really want to be a part of that. And at first, I went into speech and debate and went to debate tournaments and things like that. But after I got to college, my undergraduate years, I saw where a more systematic study of communication was really what I was interested in. That led me to rhetoric.
Yeah.
And here I am.
Yes, I agree. I feel like a big part of the issues that we see is that people just don't try to understand or view a different opinion on it. They're just very stuck in their ways. And
Exactly.
I think that persuasion and like public communication, like we talk about in the media especially, is a big way that we can make changes. But
so important. It's a major tool to open up our understanding of one another.
Like talking about public opinion and public policy is that it's almost like this never-ending cycle of how they affect each other, but something has to change, obviously.
That's right.
And so, in your opinion, what is the main stereotype that we see towards African Americans in the media, and how is that portrayed?
Well, you've heard me talk about it in class, that somehow African Americans exist in dysfunctional spheres that are somehow connected to their race. But dysfunction is everywhere,
Exactly.
in every race, in every corner of the world, the high income or low income. It's a part of our humanity, not a part of our race. And so I wish and I long to see more comprehensive roles of African Americans, showing them according to lines of normal activity and their very complex ways of dealing with life, much the same way we see in other characters, specifically white American movies and characters. This is the problem.
And I know we talked about a few distinct stereotypes, and personally I feel like we see like that African Americans are just always labeled as dangerous, and I think that also ties into like this idea that they live in a dysfunctional society, but we're all living in the same society, which is the ironic part.
And if like in the urban settings where you have high amounts of crime or things like that, that has to do with more sociological issues of poverty, not so much the race, but the impact of poverty on people's lives.
I agree. So do you ever see any stereotyping towards white Americans in the media?
Oh,
and
yes.
like how or why do you think that is? Like how are they portrayed?
Oh, definitely. The media functions basically off of the role of stereotypes. And white Americans are often stereotyped, like the person who is, an athletic guy, the big, strong guy, but he's not very intelligent or something like that. Or ladies with blonde hair are, far more interesting.
Yeah.
Those kinds of stereotypes.
Do you think that white Americans that kind of try to stick up for the other side see any pushback or stereotyping too, that they, like in some way, are doing something wrong even though they're doing the right thing?
Absolutely. There's a pressure from the larger community to want to make everybody go their way. So if a person from the larger community goes the opposite way, there's a pressure for them not to do that.
Like
so
they're the ostracized person.
Absolutely.
And what are the main types of media that portray these biases, and which one do you think is the most dangerous because they can cause the biggest reaction, either good or bad?
Well, before I continue, I don't know if we don't have anybody who's trying to get in. No one has come so far. Okay, well, let's continue then. All right. So I'm sorry, could you just say that question again?
So what types of media specifically to you are just the most dangerous because they can cause the biggest reaction and can show like a bigger bias, like movies, news outlets?
Yeah, I do think the movies have a profound impact on shaping stereotypes and shaping culture. Also, news coverage, which tends to follow seemingly the same pattern. For white American culture, the news is balanced. We get the reports of criminal behavior, but we also get stories about Girl Scouts and, good behavior and all kinds of rewards for wonderful teachers and things like that. But with people of color, we tend to get one pattern or report on criminal behavior.
One thing I think we have going for us, at least, is that the music industry seems to be, a lot of it is protests against the things that are happening.
Racism, absolutely, absolutely. And for historically, people of color have really been at the forefront of the music industry. So.
I agree. And do you think that any of these civil rights issues have gotten any better, progressively worse, stayed the same, since this really has been an issue for a very long time? It's been the same problem.
I think we've gotten progressively better in certain areas. For instance, no one would dare say, well, you have to use a certain water fountain because of your race. So we've gotten better that way. But I think we have regressed in our policies, dangerously so. We've gotten worse in understanding like fairness and understanding how we have to protect the rights of the civil rights agendas that we fought so hard for.
And that almost that some of the ideas get lost in translation throughout the years.
Absolutely.
Okay, and is there any advice that you can give me or others when it comes to changing how race is viewed, or just how not to feed into these media portrayals? Do we just not watch? Should we protest? Should the government be more involved?
How do you do
it?
All of the above. But particularly on a campus, you have an opportunity to speak. You have voice. It doesn't take a whole lot. One class can write an open letter to the editor of a newspaper or a news station there are many ways that you can speak, and that's the most important thing, is that you speak out and speak up and say, no, we're not going to accept that as the norm for our generation and our culture.
I think that communicating is a big part of it, and throughout my 3 years here so far, I've learned that communication is one of the most useful tools that we have, and I think that that's a big part. And I like that this is technically listed as a communications course, because I think that the first step is communicating.
Yes, I couldn't agree more.
And so do you have any questions that you want to ask me about the project or anything?
When will you have to complete it?
It's not due. It's actually due like around time of finals, but we've been doing it piece by piece, sort of like we do the project here. And so I've had to do like my own vlog where I kind of talk about my point of view, and a research essay, and now an interview, and all of this will go into a final digital born narrative. So it'll be like a website. And honestly, taking this class is the reason that I decided to use this topic, because it really pisses me off, to be honest. It really does, because
it's a waste of human energy.
It is, and I just don't understand why it's even still a problem. Like, how hard is it to walk down the street and know that we're all human beings living our lives, doing the same thing and just trying to make it by, and you're making that so much harder for some people. And that is very unfair, in my opinion.
Well, it sounds like you've got it on straight.
I'll do something about it one day.
That's right.
Work towards it every day. But thank you so much for letting me interview you, and I appreciate you teaching this class, and still always making it a issue of importance and reminding people of that, because I think that that's important.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.